Hello, dear my friends. Welcome to AW Versatile TV. This is Abdul Wahab and you are watching AW Versatile TV. As you all know that there is a lots of problem in France. France is in an imbroglio and France has lost its everything in the battle against Muslim and Islam. And now against the West. Emmanuel Macron doubles down and the pressures newspapers abroad and Muslims at home to buy into his narrative of ultra-secularism. The French government would have its critics believe that it is the victim of a serious misunderstanding, a vilification campaign led by the Anglo-American press, legitimizing violence in France following the brutal murder of Samuel Paty, a high school teacher of history. The confusion that pains French President Emmanuel Macron is that France is being stigmatized unfairly, he believes, as being racist and Islamophobic. At heart, Macron and many of his compatriots purportedly believe that the French notions of universalism, which stipulates that in the public space there are no distinguishing features such as race, ethnicity, religion, sex, culture, or gender, immunizes the country against racism. However, the thinking goes, can the state be racist or Islamophobic if it does not see race or religions at all? In France, people are discouraged, some would say pressurized, from displaying outward signs of belonging to a community along racial or religious lines, since it apparently creates fissures in society, resulting in what Macron has in the past called separatism. Yet critics of France's social model of laicite, a version of rigid secularism practiced in France, believe that the very notions of universalism has become a dogma inhibiting the country from dealing with systematic injustice, which intersect with race and religion. While in places like the UK and the US, visible signs of pity are protected and seen as a part of a tapestry that strengthens the overall country, France takes the opposite approach. It bans expressions of faith from public buildings and, in certain circumstances, from the public space. That is the theory of France, universalism, and that is the reality, says Yasser, a French human rights activist leading the NGO Committee for Justice and Liberties for All. Yes, France preaches universalism, but in reality, if you are a black or an Arab person, you are 20 times more likely to face police racial profiling. If you wear a headscarf, it impacts the chances of you getting a job, says the human rights activists. Like that of the human rights activists make for uncomfortable gesticulation in France that its minorities evaluate the French reality through a different prism and speak to the international media, or worse, to the English language press, is to invite opprobrium. French accept exceptionalism says that activists speaking to a deep belief in French imagination that the country is on a mission to civilize the rest of the world. If you criticize for France, you criticize the grandeur of France, he adds. There is a sense of enlightenment that only French people understand and the rest of the world does not get it, says that human rights activist, adding that only right French people can criticize the rest of the world. However, when people hold a mirror to France, they do not accept it. Then there comes the inner disease of being a double standards. France, grave with coverage emanating from international news platforms, has propelled Paris into a warpath. Paris has been stunned that its secular model has come under the spotlight among the Anglo-American press, believing that they were on the same side in the war against extremism. It has now resorted to cajoling the press in a bid to phrase its narrative. On 2nd November, the Financial Times, FT Financial Times, pushed and published in its editorial phase by one of its staff, Meharin Khan, who incidentally is also a Muslim. The general thrust of the article argued that Macron's war on Islamic separatism not only divides France but also has created a moral panic towards its Muslim citizens. The Financial Times took down the article after it was pressurized by Macron's office over perceived inaccuracies. The French president, however, was allowed to respond to the so-called offending article in a letter to the newspaper. The insidious situation meant that readers were left to read Macron's critique of an article that was no longer available. But the optics of Macron silencing a Muslim female writer did not help to sell the message that France is a fair actor when it comes to upholding values such as freedom of speech. Days before, the Financial Times pulled the opinion piece Politico, an online media outlet that also covers Europe, similarly withdrew its own article that was critical of France days after its publication. Titled The Dangerous French Religion of Secularism, and written in English by the French-Iranian sociologist Professor Farhad. The article commissioned by Politico did not meet the editorial standards according to its editor-in-chief. No further explanation was forthcoming. That professor argument that France's extreme form of secularism and its adherence to blasphemy has fueled radicalism within its marginalized Muslim minority might have made for uncomfortable reading, but given that at the heart of the whole debate was the notions of the freedom of expression, censoring now article may well have been counterproductive. In a follow-up article of a different platform, that professor argued that France's laicite has taken a religious turn and those questioning it face severe backlash, as demonstrated by the reactions to his article. Politico, similar to Financial Times, allowed a French government official to respond to the offending article by professor without allowing its reader to understand the full context.